As I begin this tenure as uh, Kentucky Farm Bureau Executive Vice President, I'd just like to say it's a great honor and a privilege for me to have the opportunity to stand before you today and serve in that capacity. In the several years, or for the last several years, in any occupation that I've had in my personal life, I've saw one connection in some way or the other to Kentucky Farm Bureau. And whether we're talking about agriculture or education or government, at all levels, my philosophy has always been that if we work together and if you build those relationships, you can go forward. I also believe that those troubles and those confrontations, those kind of things that you deal with on a daily basis are much easier to deal with if you got a force behind you and if you're working together with people that you build relationships with. I also like to think that that's a great philosophy that this organization has, and it's a philosophy that I will continue, that the foundation of this organization was built by working with others to move forward in all that we do. And we can't do this job effectively without all of us doing it together, without our staff, our members, our government officials. And I know Senator Hornback, you still here? I don't know whether Paul's still here or not, but we've always had a great relationship, and what he has done and what the other legislators have done for this organization and for agriculture, we need to continue to realize and continue to take notice. And Paul and I, when I was at the University of Kentucky, we had an opportunity to work together extensively. And we had a running joke that if somebody called myself or him before 6 in the morning, we knew it was one or the other. And I called him about 5:45 one morning after I'd come to Farm Bureau, and I'll never forget. He said, "Well, I see some things never change." But anyway, those relationships are extremely important. The relationships that we build with our commodity organizations are extremely important as we go forward. With the Governor's Office of Ag Policy and with the department, and we have those relationships now. It's our goal to continue and to improve on those relationships as we go forward. These relationships are critical to the successes we have experienced in the past, and they'll continue to be important for the relationships that we build in the future. Building relationships that bridge that rural-urban divide that we continue to hear about will help us educate the public about what we do as agriculturists, a public that, as you know, is far removed from the farm in most cases. And we have an obligation as an organization to educate those individuals that don't know us. We have to do that through creating partnerships and through the use of many valuable advocacy resources that we have. And I think one of the most valuable resources that we have to this day is that young farmer who's looking to continue that family farm, to continue that tradition he's been grown up in, and to help those individuals and those young farmers that would like to get into farming as hard as it is today. That's an obligation that we should have and a responsibility that we have as an organization to help those individuals. Because that new generation will not only be the next providers of our food, our fuel, and our fiber, but they're the ones that will take that message to new audiences as we go forward through technology and through all those different avenues. And they'll bring us in to look forward to a new day, a new year, and a new century for Kentucky Farm Bureau. You know, over the years in my former life, I had the chance to work with Farm Bureau leadership many times and in every position that I've had an opportunity to hold in the past. I can start that with as the chair of the House Ag Committee that I had an opportunity and a privilege to serve Clark County and Kentucky in for 6 years. I was thinking about what Zippy Duval said, President Haney, in regards to the nuisance suits and things that North Carolina is worried about. We passed that legislation back in 1995 with the help of Farm Bureau as we sit at the table together with Bill Sprague and myself and Roger Thomas and a few others, expressing about the importance that it was for agriculture and for landowners to know that they could continue to farm even if a subdivision happens to come up next door. So we've got that legislation. I think about preserving House Bill 44 and how important it is for us to continue to push on that, to make sure that our land is taxed appropriately and fairly. And of course, we always continue to look at preserving our tax exemptions. We had an opportunity during that time with the help of Farm Bureau as we sat in the governor's office and explained to Governor Patton about how important it would be that we have somebody in a cabinet member position to serve on agriculture, and we created the Office of Agriculture Policy. First one was John Mark Heck at that time. As county judge, we worked on a comprehensive plan and land use and zoning ordinances in Clark County that would preserve agriculture, that would allow that individual out there that owned that property to be able to give that 5 acres to his land or to his family so that they could build a house and stay on the farm. I had to make sure that those zoning ordinances and stuff wasn't so hard as it restricted what a person could do on their own land. with the help of Farm Bureau, and Ray Coopers and the Jack Wise, as many of you know, were part of that discussion as we did that in Clark County. Then I think about the University of Kentucky, where I got to spend the last 15 years, and a privilege to serve with Nancy Cox and with Scott Smith. And every time we had an issue, whether it was trying to renovate the diagnostic lab, whether it was trying to get an extension enhancement, whether it was regulatory services or what the issue may be that we needed help on, it was always Farm Bureau that was the first in line to help us get those things done. I appreciate that and will never forget it. And looking back over the years of my days as a young farmer, one thing that always impressed me was the respect that this organization had from others, whether it was the Chamber of Commerce, whether it was our community organizations or what it was, nationally or state, the respect that Farm Bureau had from those organizations. And in return, the respect that Farm Bureau gave back to those organizations. There was many times I can remember in the legislature when we worked on things together, whether it was the chamber or some others, but we all got together to try to work on things that we had a common in. That mutual respect, of course, is a two-way street, and it's a key in fostering existing relationships and building new ones. Building and maintaining those kind of partnerships has always been important to me, and I can assure you that that will never change. I've seen the successes Kentucky Farm Bureau has had as an effective advocate for agriculture, and most of those the last few years I've seen from the outside looking in. I know how much leadership Kentucky Farm Bureau has provided in moving forward on water resource issues to see that not only do we have safe water, but that we have plentiful water, as it is our most valuable resource. I've seen the difference that their contribution made to the UK Grain and Forage Center, a center that will provide the research that we'll need as we go forward in the future to see that our grain farmers and our livestock producers have the quality research that they need in order to make changes. I've seen the important input that we put in the Farm Bill, as you've heard today from Congressman Comer, it's almost there. I know the work that some of these guys have done in regards to pushing that along. And I've seen so many students, as I've been at the University of Kentucky, that have been afforded the opportunity to further their education because of Farm Bureau's commitment and their scholarship program, as well as the commitment they've made to 4-H and to FFA over the years. What this organization does to lead this state agriculturally and from a community standpoint does not go unnoticed, even when you're on the outside looking in. The things we do as an organization positively affects in one way or the other every citizen in this Commonwealth. We have offices in every county. We have a presence in every county in this state. That makes us unique, that makes us effective, and it makes us different, and that's what makes Kentucky Farm Bureau. Our commitment to communities, to farm families, the entire membership of our agriculture way of life is indicative of Kentucky Farm Bureau's grassroots way of doing things. The value we find in operating this way has gave us 100 years and will give us 100 years more. As I begin this role, I would like to thank some people as I go forward, and I'd like to start with the executive committee, the support at Mr. Haney and Mr. Giske and Mr. Melton and John. All of you have given me is not only has it been extremely gratifying, I guess I should say, but I've got 4 men that I consider dear friends and that I know I can depend on. And in life, sometimes we go through a whole lifetime without that many, and I appreciate that so much as we go forward in this role. I thank the staff of Kentucky Farm Bureau. I thank Rachel and Sarah. I know your patience at times is probably dwell, and I understand that, but what they have done is extremely grateful. With Matt Ingram and his group, the area program directors, and all that they do out in the counties, it's unreal what the commitment and dedication these people have. With Tom Logue and his group, and Todd in communications, Joe Kane, Jeff Harper, and who they lead. Yeah, I just want, if I could, I'm going to ask one more time, and I know what Mr. Haney done it the other day, but if all the staff of Kentucky Farm Bureau would stand, would you please help me give them a round? And before I forget it, with those individuals that are in the 2019-2020 lead class, please stand. We look forward to working with you. Please help me. You know, this staff that we have at Kentucky Farm Bureau, the commitment and the work ethic they have is just unreal. But I'm going to talk about one of them real quick, and that's Jeff Harper. Where's Jeff? He's somewhere. And the job that he does in government and advocacy is extremely important, but he didn't always start out that way. They tell me that he wanted to be a politician at one time. I don't know if that's truth or not, but they said he was living in, I guess, Lawrenceburg, and that he was having trouble with a neighbor, the lady that lived next to him, that he's having problems with her. And Jeff, he said, well, I've got to fix this. I got to make sure. So he worked on, and finally got to the point where they were getting along. Well, one day, lo and behold, he comes in, he stands there, and his German Shepherd dog has this lady's rabbit in its mouth. Now, needless to say, when a German Shepherd dog has a rabbit in its mouth, it's probably not doing real well. So Jeff says, what do I do? And as innovative as he was, he took that rabbit, and he got it in the bathtub, and he washed it up real good. Got a blow dryer, and he blow dried the hair on it. He got some glue and glued its eyes open, those red eyes. Got some hairspray, and he made the ears stand up real good. And I mean, it looked like it was good. So he took that rabbit back and put it in her cage. And he said, well, she'll never know the difference. Well, the next morning, he heard the god-awfulest scream in the world come out from the backyard of that house. And Jeff went out and looked. He seen the rabbit. He said, it looked fine. And that lady was just screaming. He said, well, what's wrong? She said, it's a rabbit. It's a rabbit. He said, well, what was wrong with it? I said, it looks good. She says, it died 3 days ago. I buried it in its back. So now that's trying to please people, isn't it? But I appreciate all these people I've had the opportunity to recognize. Certainly look extremely forward to working with them in the future, and especially those of you that are sitting in this audience. That volunteerism and the work ethic, the community involvement that you have, we can't do without. You're the most important cog of that wheel. And I'd like to thank the insurance company, John, for the relationship that we have. Your efforts are so important to our success, to this organization. As our most visible and valuable member benefit, the insurance company is so important to this organization. We may be two entities, but we're one organization. We work together, we depend on each other, and that relationship that we have will benefit us greatly as we go forward. I thank you for that. At this time, I would like to ask if you would to the screens, and we have a financial we'd like to show you.
2018 has been a year of change, yet our balance sheet remains strong. As the fourth floor renovations have been completed, our fixed assets have grown while our overall working capital has declined only modestly. We've also seen our long-term liabilities decrease while total net assets have increased substantially. Revenue for the year came in above expectations due primarily to investment income. Expenses too came in above expectations. Excluding retirement settlement expense and post-retirement benefit obligation costs, we achieved a surplus of approximately $360,000. Including those non-cash expenses created a deficit for the year of approximately $730,000, as seen on the statement of revenues and expenses. Actuarial gains and losses relative to pension and post-retirement benefits were quite favorable and swung us to an increase in net assets just under $2.25 million. More details and specifics are attached to the year in review report.
If you want any more information, they should be on the packets on your seat. One person that I didn't forget, I'm just coming back to it, that I would like to recognize more than anybody else. It's the one that, and you've seen in the video, the one I depend on daily, the one that encourages me. When I couldn't do that was Laura. Laura, stand up. She is truly my rock, and she's the one that when I'm down picks me up. When I'm up, tells me to slow down, and so many other things. But just to say a little bit about her and my family, as I'd like to before I get off the stage today, is Laura was not a farm girl. She was in Lexington, and I'll never forget. And I'll probably get killed for this, but I guess that's okay. But I'll never forget when we first come home and I introduced her to Dad and Mom. We were sitting at the table, and Laura says, "Well, I got one question for you." And Dad sat there and kind of looked up, and he said, "What's that, hon?" He said, "Well, what's them round barns that don't have any doors?" Dad said that'd be a silo. So she didn't know a whole lot. It wasn't long after that, though, she was helping me fork out silage in it. And to be honest with you, and raking hay. And the only problem she ever had, she didn't like getting down when the auger was running. Now, you all know what I mean by that. But I'll never forget those kind of things. But I certainly depend on her every day. My kids, I have one that's at the University of Nebraska. graduate of the College of Agriculture. I have another one that many of you know, Bobby Forey, who's the president of the Beef Cattle Association, married his son. They're presently teaching English in Cambodia. Bobby and I have had special prayers that they'll run out of money soon and come home. And then my youngest daughter, Bethany, is in Nashville, and my son getting ready to graduate college this year. You know, as we go forward in Kentucky Farm Bureau and as we look at our past, there's so much to be proud of. Standing as one of the largest farm bureaus in this country, the hard work and dedication by you and all of our members over the years have made us the solid organization we are today. And now as we head into the future, and as we look at the beginning of our next century, we can be assured that the foundation of this organization is solid and will be for generations to come. Thinking about our future, I think about a Bible verse that I've thought about many times as I think about working together with people, and it comes from Proverbs 27:17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I think that's indicative of Farm Bureau. We can make each other better as long as we work together and work toward the common goal of being the voice of Kentucky agriculture. You know, as we look at our mission statement, it is very implicit that we are to serve as the voice of agriculture. We identify problems, we develop solutions, and we take time to and take the action to improve net farm income, provide economic opportunity, and to preserve that rural America that is vibrant and wholesome for generations to come that we think so much of. This organization, I truly believe, will meet those goals and objectives mentioned in our mission statement because of those of you that are sitting in the room, because of the volunteerism, the work ethic, and the service-minded attitude that you exhibit every day. It's because of you that we've been here 100 years, and it's because of you that we'll be here 100 years later. And I leave you with this as I sit down today. You're all familiar with our slogan, Big on Commitment. That can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. It can mean that commitment that you have to your family and your friends and your community. It can mean that commitment that you have to this organization as we go forward, trying to meet the needs of agriculture and meet the needs of this rural America that we so cherish. And it can mean the commitment of you as grassroots back to this organization and to those individuals that you have an opportunity to serve. But I'd like to say, as we remember this season that we're celebrating the time, that we remember a commitment that was made over 2,000 years ago on the cross. Because without that, none of us would have that opportunity. You know, the life through Christ and his commitment to love us, a commitment that has stood strong through the ages, is never wavering and is unconstitutional. May we remember that as we go forward in this wonderful, joyous Christmas season. Thank you all so much. May God bless each and every one of you. I look forward to working with you. Appreciate the opportunity to serve you. Thank you.